Hey there! In this tutorial, I will show you how to create a simple Express server including all CRUD operations. To follow along, you will need to have Postman, node.js, and Visual Studio Code installed. If you are missing any of these, check out the first two links in the description. I have also included a link to the Git repository of the final project. To get started, create a folder and open it in VS Code. Here, you need to initialize the project by entering npm init-y. You can skip the -y, but then npm will require more information from you. Once the init command is done, open the package.json file and change the value of the main key to server.js. Before we can start to write some code, we will need to install two npm packages. The first is Express itself, and the command to install it is npm i express. The second package is nodemon, which will automatically restart our Express server when we save changes. The command to install nodemon is npm i-save-dev nodemon. For nodemon to work, you will have to create a script in the package.json file. Add a new entry under scripts with the key server and the value nodemon server.js. As a follow-up, create the server.js file. You can run the server by entering npm run server in the terminal. Stop the server by hitting Ctrl+C. Now we can start to write some code in the server.js file. We start by importing Express and creating a constant holding an instance of Express. Then we tell Express how to pass JSON data. The use of Express.json will only work if you are using an Express version of 4.16 or higher. After that, we tell Express to listen to port 8000. Okay, let's check if nodemon is doing its job. Start the server by entering npm run server. The console log from the listen function appears. I add some more text to the log and save the file. The extended message appears, so nodemon is working. If we open localhost 8000, which is the address of the Express server we have created, we get cannot get. So let's create a simple get function. The format of all CRUD operations we will create is the same. It starts with our instance of Express, followed by the CRUD operation we want to handle. In this case, we use get to read some data. The first parameter is the route we need to add to the URL to call this function. But in this case, the slash means that the base URL itself will call our get function. The second parameter is the actual get function, which itself has two parameters. Here, we only use the second parameter to send back a hello there to the caller. If we reload our browser, we will now get hello there. The next request we will add is a post to create data. To test this, we will need Postman. Create a new collection by hitting the plus in the top left corner. The first request we add to our new collection is the get we have already created. Save it. Then, by clicking send, we should receive the same response we got in the browser. Back to VS Code. Create a map to hold the data we sent to the server. The post is very similar to the get, but the parameter for the route has a value past the slash. So the address we use to access this function will be localhost 8000/cantrip. The big difference is that this time we use the request parameter of the callback function to extract data from the request body. This time we don't send back plain text, but the data we received. Save and switch back to Postman. Create a new request and switch from get to post. After that, paste in the new request and switch to the body tab. Here we choose the raw option. If you don't want to type out the example data, you can find it in the README of the linked GitHub repository. If we press send, we will receive the data we put in. Don't forget to save the request. It's nice that we can send data to the server, but right now we can't actually see it. So we create another get request, which reads entries from the cantrip map. The route parameter this request uses has an additional part, the :name. By doing this, we can access whatever is placed as a second part of the route by retrieving it from the params object inside the request. If our map has an entry for exactly this name, we will set the response to the corresponding name and range. Otherwise, we return no entry found. Switch back to Postman and create another GET request. The address for this request is localhost 8000/entry/ the name of the cantrip we want to get. One thing to note here is that we can't put a space in the URL. Instead, we use %20. If we send this request now, we will receive no entry found. This is because NodeMon has restarted our server, and thus the cantrip we had created before is gone. But since we have saved our requests, we can just send the post another time. If we send the new get after that, we receive the correct answer. For the put or update function, there's nothing really new. If the name key in our body is already inside our map, we just overwrite the entry, and we respond with the name of the patched cantrip. Let's test this in Postman. Create a new put. The URL is localhost 8000/update. The update also needs a body, but we can copy what we need from our post. Just change the range value so we can see an actual update. Although we don't need this request again for this tutorial, it is good practice to save it anyway. Since NodeMon has restarted the server, we need to post a new cantrip to the server, get the new cantrip, update the cantrip. The server should respond with the name of the updated cantrip. Finally, we can get the updated version of the cantrip. We could add the delete function now, but for a better testing experience, we will change our first get, so it returns all cantrips. In Postman, we can easily test the new version by adding 2 different cantrips via post, and then sending the get we created at the start of the video. Now we can create our delete function, which is pretty much just a copy of the put. The major difference is that we don't use the request body this time. Instead, we retrieve the name of the cantrip we want to delete from an URL parameter. Okay, back to Postman. Create a new request and make it a delete after entering the URL. In this case, localhost 8000/delete. Go to the params tab. The key has to be name, since that is what we used in our delete function. The value needs to be a name of a cantrip you want to delete. Once you are done creating and saving the request, add the cantrip you want to delete via post. Check if it really has been created by one of the gets. Then send the delete and check if the cantrip is gone. Apparently, YouTube gives less attention to videos that link to external sites. So if the inclusion of the Github repository was helpful to you, I'd appreciate a like. Happy coding!